The story begins in earnest with the first line of dialogue, spoken by protagonist Bill Harford.
Honey, you see my wallet?
This establishes what will become a recurring theme, Bill as the consumer. A comfortably wealthy medical doctor, though not a member of the elite, ultra-wealthy class, Bill fancies himself capable of buying his way into anything. However, as we discover throughout the film, he is merely a mid-level servant to this powerful upper class, having already been commodified himself. One of Eyes Wide Shut's primary themes is that the ultra-rich treat everything, including people, as commodities. Those who are not members of the wealthiest elite often strive, in unconscious ways, to join this same ruling class that exerts power over them. Bill's line to Alice, who from the next room tells him exactly where his wallet is, also sets up her role in the film as the wife as prostitute, Kreider introducing. Alice uses her appearance and sexuality to buy her way in, while Bill uses his money, but neither of them can ever truly join the club. Eyes Wide Shut utilizes dialogue in unusual ways. Bill frequently repeats lines spoken by other characters, sometimes as a question, as if he is uncertain about what he is hearing. For example, Domino says,
"Would you like to come inside with me?"
and Bill repeats,
Come inside with you.
as if processing what she has just said. At the end of their encounter, Domino asks,
"Do you have to go?"
and Bill replies,
Do I have to go?
Similarly, Victor says,
It's heroin and coke.
and Bill responds,
Heroin and coke.
Lastly, Sally says,
Well, to be perfectly honest, she may not even be coming back.
which Bill echoes word for word.
She may not even be coming back.
This dialogue device continually emphasizes Bill's uncertainty about his experiences and reinforces the film's mirroring qualities. The dialogue in Eyes Wide Shut also includes unexpected links to other creative works. Sandor Savos Sky Dumont says to Alice,
Don't you think one of the charms of marriage is that it makes deception a necessity for both parties?
The phrase both parties applies not only to two spouses, but also to the two central groups in the film, Ziegler's party and the masked ball. This line is taken from Oscar Wilde's 1890 novel The Picture of Dorian Gray. The one charm of marriage is that it makes a life of deception absolutely necessary for both parties. Eyes Wide Shut also features dialogue lifted from James Cameron's True Lies, 1994, which stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a spy who conceals his true identity from his wife. At the beginning of True Lies, Schwarzenegger's character dances with a woman, similar to Savost and Alice dancing, at a party not unlike Ziegler's. While discussing 6th century BC sculptures, the woman asks, "Do you like the period?" To which Schwarzenegger replies, "Oh, I adore it." In Eyes Wide Shut, Savost asks Alice, "Do you like the period?" referring to Ziegler's collection of Renaissance bronzes, and then echoes, "I adore it." The paradoxically titled True Lies and Eyes Wide Shut both explore themes of marital dishonesty, but otherwise have little in common, making it particularly peculiar that Stanley Kubrick chooses to draw this connection. Some have criticized the dialogue in Eyes Wide Shut as flat and unrealistic.
Grateful that we've managed to survive through all of our adventures.
But this is undoubtedly intentional on Stanley Kubrick's part. The slow, measured manner in which the characters often speak, especially Bill and Alice, contributes to the dreamlike atmosphere, allowing the audience time to observe the surroundings where symbolic meaning abounds and to reflect on how virtually every line resonates on multiple levels. Much of the dialogue functions not only as communication between characters within the story, but also as commentary on the film itself. Kubrick's characters are very much a part of his mise-en-scène, mechanisms of his visual experience. In the deliberate way they move and speak, they are not just talking to each other, but also addressing the audience directly, offering insight into the themes and meaning of the movie. For example, One of the first lines spoken by Alice as she and Bill prepare in their apartment to attend their friend, Victor Ziegler's party, is,
Right.
You're not even looking at it.
on one level, this is simply her reaction to her husband's lack of attention when she asks him how her hair looks. He is looking at himself in the mirror at that moment. However, it also speaks to the character's blindness to the pervasive influence of capitalism in their lives, and, by extension, to the blindness of some critical detractors to the deeper meanings of the film itself. This ties directly to the film's title, Eyes Wide Shut, arguably one of the greatest titles in the history of cinema, which encapsulates these themes of willful blindness and unacknowledged truths. In his final confrontation with Bill, Ziegler says, "Suppose I said that all of that was staged." Within the film, this line refers to the events at the mansion's masquerade party. However, it also applies to the film's multi-layered structure, where the meticulously staged surface appearance draws the viewer's attention as a form of misdirection, diverting focus from the film's deeper issues. This mirrors the real-life misdirection orchestrated by the ruling class, corporate superpowers and governing agencies, and by Stanley Kubrick himself over his audience. Another example of how dialogue functions on multiple levels is when Bill says to the prostitute Domino, Vanessa Shaw,
So, do you suppose we should talk about money?
On the surface, this line refers to their impending sexual transaction. However, it also serves as a prompt for the audience to consider one of the film's central themes, money. Throughout Bill's misadventures, he spends large amounts of cash without hesitation, offering hundreds of dollars to a prostitute, a cab driver, and a costume store owner. His name, Dr. Bill, is itself a pun, evoking both dollar bill as a form of currency and a bill as a receipt of financial exchange, underscoring how he, too, is merely another instrument of the wealthy elite. Then Bill asks Domino, again, ostensibly about their sexual transaction, "What do you have in mind?" She responds,
I'd rather not put it into words.
These lines serve as further commentary on the film itself and Kubrick's philosophy of cinema. He believed that movie watching should primarily be a visual experience, one that bypasses verbalized pigeonholing and directly penetrates the subconscious. Kubrick is subtly encouraging the audience to think differently and to open themselves to experiencing this film and all his films in ways that are unconventional. In this sense, the movie can be seen as being fundamentally about communication. Between Bill and Alice, between Bill and himself, and between Kubrick and the audience. On the phone with Alice, Bill says,
It's a little difficult to talk right now.
Later, near the end of the story, when Bill sees the mask on the pillow and Alice wakes up, he says,
I'll tell you everything.
However, the scene cuts to the next morning, and we never actually hear what he tells her. This deliberate omission underscores Kubrick's emphasis on what remains unspoken and unexplained, challenging the audience to engage with the film on a deeper, more intuitive level. There is considerable attention given to different forms of communication in Eyes Wide Shut, and how the mediums through which we broadcast our messages function in relation to understanding. When we comprehend something, we often say, "Oh, I see," reflecting both physical sight and mental insight. A movie itself is a medium of communication, and the title Eyes Wide Shut applies as much to the protagonist, Bill Harford, as it does to us, the viewers, highlighting our limited ability to comprehend the world's vast and often contradictory complexities as mirrored in this film. In addition to dialogue, Eyes Wide Shut incorporates many other means of communication: written notes on paper, paintings and signs on walls, movies playing on television screens, and telephone calls. These varied forms underscore the layered and multifaceted nature of how we perceive and interpret messages in both the film and the world around us. During Bill's nighttime walk, he passes a man on a payphone who says, "Oh, I see. I am taking care of it, baby."
Oh, I see. Take care, baby.
Alice calls Bill on his cell phone while he is at Domino's apartment. Bill calls Marion from his office, but hangs up when Carl answers. Nick Nightingale receives a call from the people at the mansion while he is sitting with Bill at the Sonata Cafe. Bill also receives a call from Ziegler's people while he is at the hospital. Immediately after Alice's revelation about her sexual fantasy with another man, Bill gets a phone call at home, ostensibly to inform him that a patient has just died. He hangs up and says,
I think I have to go over there and show my face.
As he utters this line, he is staring off into space, as if speaking to himself more than to Alice. This marks the beginning of Bill's odyssey. Later that night, he ends up at the masquerade party, where he is exposed as an imposter, told to remove his mask and forced to show his face. When Bill speaks the line to Alice, he has already begun to slip into his own internal dream reality. His words are not only about paying a professional visit to his deceased patient's home, but also about venturing into the dark side of his psyche to confront and reveal who he truly is. There are numerous instances of written messages on paper being passed around in eyes wide shut. Nick writes the mansion password, Fidelio, on a paper napkin at the Sonata Cafe. Bill flashes his medical license card at every opportunity. He buys a newspaper, sits in a coffee shop to read it, and later shows a torn-out article from it to Ziegler. When Bill revisits the mansion, the gateman hands him a threatening letter that partially reads, "Give up your inquiries, which are entirely useless." This letter serves as a meta-cinematic comment on the film itself, as if Stanley Kubrick anticipated the countless obsessive analyses the movie would inspire. It is as though Kubrick is advising viewers to give up trying to figure out or solve this movie and simply immerse themselves in the experience. Multifunctional dialogue, phone calls, and notes all contribute to a sense of muffled, muted attempts at communication. However, these efforts feel hazy and fail to fully connect, because everything revolves around Bill, who is not being honest. Experts often emphasize that communication is the #1 requirement for a healthy relationship, a theme that resonates throughout the film.